Gaza's Hamas leadership's vowed to keep fighting until the Israeli occupation's over, as hundreds of thousands of supporters turned up to celebrate the militant group's 25th anniversary. It comes amid a turbulent time for the region. Israel's, of course, refused to end its settlement expansion, which has been denounced by the international community. Let's talk now to Israeli journalist Gideon Levy, who's joining us on the line. Gideon, good evening to you. Thanks for being with us in Tel Aviv there. Hamas's political leader insists, doesn't he, that he won't recognise Israel. Is this really any way forward, do you think, for negotiations as you see it?
No, Israel sees it different. I see it different. The speech of Mr. Mashaal in Gaza was rather extreme and did not leave much room for negotiations. But I truly believe that Hamas should be challenged and Israel should try to talk even to Hamas, even though his speech was really the traditional old attitude of Hamas, which has no intention to recognize the state of Israel, which wants to liberate Palestine from the Jordan, from the river to the sea, as he mentioned it. This leaves very, very little room for negotiations. But you know, declarations in a big rally is one thing. Declarations in a big rally is one thing, and getting into negotiations can lead to somewhere else.
The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas treading very carefully right now. He refrained, didn't he, from criticising Hamas's actions because he's striving for unity with Hamas. Is it possible for him to actually bridge that gap?
The question should be raised to both parties, to Hamas and to Fatah. Until now, all the efforts really failed. I think it's a fatal mistake for the Palestinian cause that the Palestinians are so divided. But at least the rhetoric in the last days sounds a little more promising, and there is a chance for unification or reunification, but the way is still very long.
Let's look at the Israeli side of it now. It's apparent that the only thing that's really changed so far since the UN General Assembly upgraded Palestine is Israel's decision to expand its settlements, which has been widely condemned. Is Israel concerned about its apparent growing isolation?
Not enough. Israel, who is Israel? If it's the Israeli public opinion, it doesn't seem to be very troubled by the UN resolution and by the fact that Israel was so isolated there. And also about the government, as long as the United States continues to support and to back Israel, the concern is less big. Europe did a step in the last vote in the UN, but still Israel feels that Europe is basically supporting Israel.
Can it count on the same level of US support in the future, Israel?
That's an open question. It's a new term of a very promising American president who disappointed many in this part of the world in his first term. But maybe the second term will not look like the first term, and maybe President Obama will go for really courageous and historical steps in the Middle East, but this is still to be proven.
All right, Gideon, thanks for being on the line. Gideon Levy there, Israeli journalist. Thanks for your thoughts.